Thanks for coming to our channel to watch this video. If you like this video and want to purchase the entire course, you can click the link in the description. If you're watching this on mobile, you can click the downward arrow here and it is going to show you the link where you can purchase the entire course relating to international taxation. Let us now look at one of the sample articles, Article 4.1 of the India-Austria Treaty. Like I told you earlier, Article 4.1 typically defines what is the meaning of resident. For the purposes of this convention, the term a resident of a contracting state means. What this implies is that for the purpose of treaty, this is an exhaustive definition, right? Which means that if you are covered as a resident by virtue of application of this provision, then you are a resident of India or Austria, as the case may be, or the two treaties partners. But if you are not, then you cannot import the meaning of a resident under the domestic laws to kind of reach at a conclusion that you are a resident of one of these countries. Any person, mark the word person, who under the laws of that state, which means what? If I am trying to find out whether a person is a resident of India for the purpose of claiming the benefit under the India-Austria Treaty, then a person who under the Indian laws is liable to tax therein, which means he is liable to tax in India, right? Why? By reason of his domicile, residence, place of incorporation. This may apply to company, place of management, or any other criteria of a similar nature, right? Now what this means is that when I talk about resident, it means any person. Person can include an individual or a company, right? It can include other forms as well. So if you remember, there's a definition of person under the Income Tax Act. So any person who under the laws of that state for which he claims to be, he wants to be the resident, is liable to tax therein. So if a person wants to be a resident of India, he is liable to tax in India by virtue of one of the following reasons, which could be domicile, residence. Now here I would like to point out one thing, that when you say you are a resident, it need not necessarily mean that you are a citizen, right? The concept of residence and citizenship needs to be distinguished. A person may be a citizen of India, but if he is not staying in India for the last 10 years, he need not necessarily be a resident of India for tax purposes, right? Therefore, what that means is that the concept of residence and citizenship is different. Now, I'll take a pause here and I'll just show you something which is different in one of the treaties. If I go to the India-US Treaty, Article 4.1 of the India-US Treaty, here if you see it says is liable to tax therein by reason of his domicile, residence, citizenship, right? Which means that if a person is a citizen of India or a citizen of US, he will be considered a resident within the meaning of Article 4.1. But when I was looking at the India-Austria Treaty, this word citizenship was missing, which means that insofar as India-Austria is concerned, every citizen of Austria need not necessarily be a resident of Austria for the purpose of Article 4.1. So a person who's liable to tax in India by reason of domicile, residence, incorporation, management, etc., and also includes that state, which means India. So if the India as a government is earning some income which is coming from Austria, even the Indian government or the state itself is going to be treated as a resident, and any political subdivision or local authority thereof. This term, however, does not exclude any person who is liable to tax in that state in respect only of income from sources in that state or capital situated therein. Now what this means is that the concept of taxability, the liability to tax, is important insofar as residence is concerned, right? But there could be a non-resident who is taxable in India for certain specific India-sourced income only. In such a case, these category of people who are only liable to tax in India for specific income which arise from India are not considered as resident insofar as this India-Austria Treaty is concerned. So what are some of the key features of Article 4.1? It's an exhaustive definition. The use of the word means indicate that. There are three categories of taxpayer who are covered. People who are liable to tax only on specific sourced income, people who are liable to tax generally, right? And not only on the basis of residential status, but sometimes on the basis of citizenship as well. The term resident or resident of other contracting state, which we discussed earlier, is not defined in the treaty. It applies to all articles of the treaty, right? Are there any exceptions? The answer is no. There may be cases where certain article may confer a benefit of its applicability based on citizenship, like the non-discrimination one. But when you have the definition of residence, the word residence is used, the definition contained in this article shall apply. And obviously the criteria of residence is different from citizenship.